So I just want to do a quick review of yesterday. We had a good few sessions yesterday. I really enjoyed them. I hope that people got the sense that what we were talking about there was how we are trying to build out from the core and interact with other systems. So we started off talking about how multiple schemes can work together, and obviously the first potential application for that is COMESA in East Africa, but there are plenty of other places where we're looking to deploy similar ideas, and it's important that we have that infrastructure in place. And the next session on PAPS and TCIB is really building on that to make sure that we can interact with systems which are not modular. So we start off with the relatively simple case with multiple modular loops, and then we move to extend that to that which is not modular. And to facilitate that, obviously, we have to be able to do currency conversion, because most of these multi-scheme things are across multiple countries, which in most cases means multiple currencies. And again, as part of that, increasingly, we are starting to have to interact with systems that work, that use ISO 222 based messaging. And to be honest, I mean, they call it a standard, but in many cases, it's been a wild west out there. But ISO 222 in the IPS space, with a lot of vendors doing things which are essentially vendor specific. So Michael in particular has done some great work on trying to actually create a standard in that standard for IPS. So grateful to Michael, and Julie is now bringing that into the reality where we can talk ISO 222 to other services. And merchant payments, obviously, that's a critical use case in many deployments where we're looking to build more value for the scheme operator. And then we had the session where we talked about G2P payments using digital identities, and we talked also about extending that to other forms of routing, such as the LEI for companies and corporates, and other forms of natural identity or people digital identity, and how we have to be a little more flexible around that. And so, yeah, that's how we're trying to view the world. We are just one player in a big wide world out there. So day one yesterday was really talking about how we achieve that in the best manner possible. And there's, as you can see, I hope there's been a lot of work in that area over the last PI. And those pieces of work are actually fairly big pieces of work, more than one PI's worth, and that almost all of those are going to extend through into the next PI as well. And finally, we had a session which actually leads into today, where we're talking about what happens under the hood. So the first bit of that was really the Mojaloop Tiger Beetle integration, and Jason and Pedro did a great job of giving us insights into how they're looking at building that integration under the hood to improve the transaction speed. Today, though, we're going to extend that. We're diving under the hub even further. So we're going to look at platform quality and security, and then talk about core and releases, how we manage the release process, how we're improving that and increasing the automation of releases and deployment, and how we're bringing that into formalization around releases of the core, etc. And then James is our engineering manager. Is going to talk about performance characterization, how we're improving the overall performance of the Mojaloop core, and how that's being represented in Mojaloop releases. And then looking at participation tools, which is essentially, it's great if we've got a core and we can do very efficient releases, and we know about the quality and the security of that core and how to ensure it. But actually, how do we make sure that we can integrate in all the financial institutions that want to connect to that core in the most simple, most efficient manner possible? So James will lead a discussion on that. And then a rather fundamental element, building on our work in core and releases and participation tools. How do we actually deploy on-premise? Historically, Moduloop has been deployed in the cloud, um, AWS in particular, but now there's increasing demand for us to deploy on-premise. And we've done a lot of work over the last two PIs on that. And James and Paul Baker in Intratext will talk about that. We're seeing increasing demand from adopters for improvements in localization. So we've always been able to do currency localization. You can deploy whatever currencies you want and as many as you want on a Moduloop deployment. But we've not been very good on items such as time zone. So making the deployment operate in at least appear in the local time zone to operators and participant DFSPs. So and separately from that, we also need to do some work on localization in terms of language. It's not it comes as a shock to many people, I'm sure, but not everyone in the world speaks English. So we do have to support other languages. And Lewis and E are going to present on the work on that. I think we're going to split that probably into two because the localization for time zone is a lot more straightforward than it is for language. So we might have two sub work streams on that in the next PI. And then finally today, we're going to talk about VNext, the revised code base, which has been under development for a few years now. James is, as engineering director, is leading that work stream, and Julie is going to present as transition manager, managing the transition from the VNow code base to the VNext code base. That's today. Tomorrow is going to be quite a short session. I'm going to talk about the workstream dashboard. We have introduced this concept of a simple dashboard, which gives you an at a glance view of where all the work streams are and breaking it down into phases in the life cycle of a work stream. So we can find out, we can present very easily where we are on each of the progress of each of the work streams. And another representation of that dashboard and the wider context is the Moduloop roadmap. And I'm going to present updates to the roadmap and I think some enhancements which will make it easier for adopters and the G2M team to see when they might expect certain enhancements to be available for pilot and for a production variant. And finally, tomorrow I'm going to close off with a call for requirements. So if there's anything out there that anyone thinks we should be doing and we're not doing, then I'm going to ask people to speak up and let us know what it is. And we'll see how that goes. And hopefully, if it's validated by the broader community, we can adopt it into the roadmap for perhaps the next PI or future PIs, depending on the urgency.